Welcome to the Sean Trey Show. I have a really awesome guest with me today. Now, would you like to tell people who you are and what you do?
Hey everyone, Sean, thanks for having me, and happy holidays and New Year to everyone. We made it to 2022. I know it's been a chaos. I remember that it was like I woke up, it was 2019, and now all of a sudden we're here. So, you know.
Right? Man, I feel you.
So yeah.
It blasts by, man.
So I'm...
Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, it was good, definitely a lot different than usual, but, it's nice to kind of just be mellow and, being here in New York, which I guess, leads me to the introduction, is always pretty crazy on New Year, so it's definitely a lot more low-key than usual. So, I'm Justin Jacobson. I'm an esports and entertainment attorney here in New York City, and for the last decade, I've been an attorney for professional athletes, musicians, DJs, fashion designers, songwriters, producers, and all creative people, helping them with all their legal and business matters. And about 6 years ago, I expanded into the esports and professional gaming world, where I also help pro gamers and streamers and content creators and coaches and casters and teams and all these companies kind of working in the space. So I handle all the legal matters. So this could be copyrights, trademarks, contract review, drafting, wills, trusts, visas, immigration, business, LLCs, really just anything that relates to the business of them. It's really kind of become this influencer world where, you're a musician, but you're also a podcast host. You also play games on Twitch and just a lot of different similarities. And it's no longer, I just work with rappers or I just work with, EDM producers. It's like, these are talent and they're, celebrities in their own right. And they have these legal and business matters, and I assist them with that. Mm-hmm. I'm also a professor. I teach music business previously at the Institute of Audio Research, and now I'm teaching esports business at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. So that's really been exciting. That's awesome. And, I'm an author of The Essential Guide to the Business and Law of Esports and Professional Video Gaming, which is, my first published work. So I was really excited to kind of, I've written articles and been on panels and lectures and all this, but to have like a published book was really exciting. So really kind of evolved as an attorney. And more recently, about a year ago, I was brought in by Ford Models, which for those who are unfamiliar is a well-known talent and modeling agency. A new ownership group is kind of bringing them under new directions. They had brought me in to act as the manager and create an esports and gaming talent division. So I handle and manage the day-to-day affairs of over 22 different gamers, streamers, content creators, coaches, casters. I'm a former NFL player that, is a college esports coach, a WNBA player who signed to an esports team. So really kind of sitting at this intersection of entertainment, music, sports, and the gaming world. So definitely a lot of exciting stuff in my day-to-day world.
I'm going to say, man, that's a lot. That is a lot. And one of the interesting things is it's like, it's such a developing area. Imagine someone's getting into a traditional field that is, say you're getting into
you're an accountant, you're an accountant, right?
Accounting,
right?
Yeah. There's the way to do it, and it's been done the same way, and certainly you get new tools, but accounting is accounting versus esports. Like, man, 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't there. And now it's this thing. And even 10 years ago, it wasn't the way it is now. I remember, I think I'm considerably older than you, but I remember, what was it? There was a movie with Fred Savage back in the day.
The Wizard.
And, it's called The Wizard. Yes. Yeah. And he, and he had the game, and what was it?
It was like Nintendo hands. Yeah.
Yeah, the glove thing,
exactly,
right? But that was like, and it was one of the first times in film that they portrayed, esports. It's like it was one of the first moments of like pop consciousness going, hey, what is this? People are gaming against each other, like
for prizes,
in this,
and like people are watching it
for prizes. Yeah, it was one of the times that I remember watching. I was like, that's awesome. And then all the adults that were watching it, that's never going to be a sport. People can't play that. It's just like, well, you guys were wrong, really wrong.
Yeah, now in every boardroom, it's like, how do we get the gaming generation? How do we get these kids that are sitting on their screens and playing Fortnite and Call of Duty all day?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's every conversation now, and every marketing, advertising agency, like you said, even accounting, these, financial institutions. I have the Merrill Lynch's and the Morgan Stanleys of the world. How do we represent gamers? How do we get into this? How do we help these people? So it's kind of like these traditional power players are seeing what's here and kind of trying to get involved really, however they can.
Yeah. And it's something like, again, like I was saying, it's pretty cool too, because the industry is so new. There is so much room for innovation, and there's so much room for things. But there's also what one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you too is the other day, I followed this on Instagram. I followed this one page, and someone posted this contract that they were like, beat makers, you see this? Do not sign this if someone gives this to you, because this is a buyout agreement. And it was a really, 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 like, whoever wrote this knew what they were doing. And these young kids are just like, I'm making beats, it's fun, And I was like, I should, well, sure.
Yeah, they give me some money, $100, $200, this is a win.
Yeah, I'll sign this. And then they just lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know. And so there's a ton of people as well in this arena that are extremely savvy, who might take advantage of gamers or streamers or whatever, and it's interesting do you notice a lot of that? Is there a lot of just information that people need, or protection that these people need?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of like the auspice behind my book. The reasoning of kind of going into it was like, as you said, in the music world and these more traditional talent worlds, not everyone is trying to do the best thing. Their business might not necessarily be focused on helping you. And at the end of the day, that's why you have people on your side. And that's like kind of the biggest, my flag in the ground. It's like, hey, like these teams, these record labels, managers, whoever, they have these probably really expensive lawyers, big lawyers, people that are in their corner that are creating these documents to protect them, because that's their job. They're not necessarily trying to pull a fast one on you. Yeah, there are some crooks like that, we call them like them, see them, but at the end of the day, it's one of these things where it's like, it's not my job to help you. You have to get someone like Justin or a manager, an agent, or all of the above, attorney, to help you and to be like, okay, well, this is not fair. Like, we need to have this, and the third. And, I always kind of say this, where it's like, they call it negotiation. It's not take it or leave it. If it was take it or leave it, then you say it, and then that's what it is. And sometimes there's situations where it is take it or leave it. And if you're in the power position and you're, super, producer Pharrell, and you want to sign with me, this is my deal. It might not be pro you, but hey, I'm me. But then again, if you're just some random dude on beatmakers.com and you're just selling these things to people that want to buy them, you might make, some random person might make a really great beat, and some artist might take it and it might blow up. And it's like, wow, well, if you would have done things properly, you might have actually made money on this. But, good luck trying to go after Atlantic Records on this kind of thing. You're not going to be able to afford an attorney that's ready to go against them for that, unless your daddy is someone, whoever, so it's just kind of like, it's a problem. And that's kind of, why I wrote the book, and kind of a lot of the articles and literature I put out there is meant to kind of illuminate some of this stuff, to kind of bring ideas of what you need, whether it's trademarks to protect your band name or your gamer tag or team name, or copyrights to protect your work. Like, there's so many things that people overlook, building an LLC or a corporation or some other kind of business entity so that you can operate properly. You can get certain tax write-offs and benefits. You can really operate your business like a business and get all that the law provides you. And I think that a lot of people just don't want to spend the money, don't care, don't know. And it's just, maybe they don't trust lawyers. I don't know. Maybe they watch too many movies and TV shows and, reading Reddit too much. But at the end of the day, you got to do your own research. Like, I definitely won't say that everyone is the same. That's definitely not me kind of coming out and saying, hey, this is what's going on. However, I do believe that people are doing themselves a huge disservice if they don't have someone. You're not saying you have to spend $10,000 to get at a whatever agreement. Everything has to be relative. But if you're signing something that's going to hold you for, a year, longer, like something that's really going to have a long-term effect on your career, your livelihood, anything, you need someone in your corner. You need to understand it. You need to feel comfortable with it. And I always say that, like, it's much better to start a relationship that way, that you did this agreement, you guys feel great, they believe in you, you believe in them. And especially in this talent world that I work in, creative people, you know, these musicians, artists, models, painters, actors, writers, all these people are very creative, very fickle, very, you know, there's a lot going on with them. So they need to understand what's going on. They might not want, they might not care. Like, you know, I'm sure some of the bigger artists aren't that interested in the finance nuances of, especially of the contracts. But at the end of the day, this is what's really valuable. And this is, you know, you read these horror stories later of people not doing the right thing early on. And like you said, all the copyrights and publishing are given to this random entity for no money. It's like, well, if someone gives you $100,000 advance for all your publishing rights, that's a different story. But some random dude running a website and just taking everything, but people don't know because they're so excited. And, you know, that kind of brings it back to the esports thing. It's like you have these young kids, 17, 18, you know, 16, whatever it is, playing video games all day. And now you have a team, whether it's a big team or a smaller team, like, hey, we'll pay you money and we'll give you a jersey and you're on our team now and da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, this is all I want. And then you just jump into it. And, you know, I've seen some agreements that I'm just like, wow, you got fleeced. Like, I talked to some people last week and I'm like, wow, whoever negotiated this did a really bad job. Nothing, you know, and not trying to be that guy, but like you could have done a lot better than what you did here, just because this isn't what people sign, you know, especially considering the level of talent that you are. So it's just kind of finding the right people, knowing that you need the right people in your corner. And, you know, it's one of these things where it's part of business. If you want to grow, you want to do things right, then you have to do things right.
Yeah. You know, and I think one of the things is that my dad is a very trusting person. My mom is not. And, you know, it's like, so I kind of found a balance, and you can trust people, but you don't have to be naive. You know what I mean? You can,
you earn trust. You can not be like distrust, but like you can hopefully hope that people have good intentions and that they're trying to do the right thing.
Exactly. But you prepare for them to not be, you know, and you do everything right so that, you know, you don't. Let me make another analogy. I live in a country that has considerably more petty crime than the U.S. Getting ready to move back to the States next month, but right now I'm in Vietnam. And you go into any house here, and every house has bars in the windows, and they've got metal doors with deadbolts. Why? Because they operate under the assumption that people might try to steal something. And if you can operate under an assumption that you need to protect yourself, you're not going to get caught. You're not going to get caught in a bad situation. Versus if you go around and you're like, you know what? I don't need that.
Like, it happened next door. It's not going to be me.
Exactly. And then suddenly you're missing your bike the next morning. You know, you don't have a car. You know, and like right there, it's like, it doesn't take much to buy some good deadbolts. It doesn't take much to put them on at night. You know,
to have
like
an alarm
right there,
system.
Exactly. It's those little things that people go, yeah, I don't know about that, you know, but those are the things that end up, you know, that might seem redundant. You know, why do we have fire detectors in this house? Well,
because
hopefully you don't use them.
Yes.
But when you do, you're thankful for them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the type of thing that you plan ahead for, and I think are really important. But let's come back to, how did you get into this profession? I want to hear a little bit about how you got into this.
Yeah, so, you know, I've always kind of been in, you know, the entertainment world. Kind of started out in the nightclub scene, working during college, and I had managed a DJ, and then kind of during that whole time I was working in different internships. Intern at MTV, at some record labels, at ASCAP, at the copyright office, and really just kind of learned different sides of the industry, from, you know, indie record labels to, you know, the big publishing, you know, performing rights societies such as ASCAP, to, you know, MTV, this conglomerate in Times Square, where like every day for a summer I went to Times Square and was in that building, and it was really exciting to kind of see what, like, you know, this Viacom beast was like. And then, you know, working at some, you know, smaller labels that it's just kind of like the artist has come in, and it's not like what you would think of like a Columbia Records where there's all these different floors and everything's very segregated. It's like next to you is the marketing guy, 2 cubicles down is the radio guy, and there's only one conference table, so whenever an artist comes in, everyone gets to listen to the new stuff. So it's just seeing what these different worlds are. And then from there I just kind of started and linked up my father, who had been doing this for a long time, and kind of just started working at his law firm, and we kind of created it and expanded it a bit and just kind of started out there. A lot of networking, throwing my own events, meeting people. And that's, I think, one of the best things about being here in New York, pre-COVID, we'll just kind of put it that way, was that there was always something going on. There was always, especially during the week, there's always industry stuff, album release parties, magazine release parties, art openings. We always did a Monday Night Football thing whenever there's always New York Fashion Weeks. There's always a lot of exciting things to go to and meet people, and just really was able to just be me and kind of talk to people and try to get them to kind of understand where I'm working for and how I can, help them. Because like you said, it's hard to explain to someone why they should spend $2,000 on a trademark or spend a couple $100 to have you review a contract. It's like, oh, well, you get what it says. But, most times, and, I have this happen all the time. It's like, if I negotiate a deal, guarantee you it's going to be better than what you got. Like, even when they make a mistake, like I was negotiating a deal and like, I just always raise the numbers just because why wouldn't I raise the numbers? And then the town was like, oh, well, we already negotiated it, but she had sent the wrong one, the copy that I had raised the numbers on, and team just accepted, and that was that. So I ended up giving her more money just because it just didn't matter to them. That was like, okay, what's another $100 a month? Like, but hey, that's another G in her pocket. Yep. So she paid for me plus. Yep. And it's just kind of little stuff like that. And, mentioning what you said, there was a tweet recently about people in the esports and gaming world signing contracts with really huge buyout clauses, like 6-figure, 7-figure buyout clauses, and not realizing how this is going to affect them years down the line. And I think that's one of the biggest points that I make in, my book. And one of the reasons I kind of wrote it was to kind of highlight how these things could impact your career and why these are important and why you should look at this stuff. And the fact is, if you're trying to move on in your career and it's going to cost another team, $500,000, $250,000 to buy you, that's going to be really prohibitive, especially if there's another player that doesn't have that issue. So, I think it's one of these things that if you don't understand that things might not work out, you might go to another team, this, that, like that's always the naive part of it, is you think everything's going to be butterflies and rainbows all the time. And in reality, that's not life. And it's definitely not business. And it's not the entertainment business. And it's just not reality. And you have to be prepared.
Exactly. You have to be prepared. And I think that's one of the most important things. And one of the things too, like as well, because it's a new field, like you look at like in recent memory, there's 2 main areas in sports that have kind of sprung up. I'm sure there's more than that, but like the 2 big areas are esports and also MMA, like areas that just started out as like,
the subculture. And now there's a subculture, people that just loved it.
Exactly. Early MMA, there was a guy with a glove and a boxing glove in one hand, and then just nothing on the other end. It was wild. They were doing all types of things. But now it's a full blown sport. But it hasn't been around as long as other sports. So like you get the NBA, and they have the a guy comes into the NBA, and the NBA Players Association has They join their union, which, has this protective influence on them. But there's also other programs to get them in. But, some in the esports and with MMA for a while, it was the Wild West. People ran things differently and were doing their own things. And like you said, some of these contracts that are insane,
Yeah, I mean, there's been kind of a trend of some esports games having these players associations, but they're not in the same vein of these sports unions that are like recognized by the National Labor Board, and they have these collectively bargained, contracts and worker terms and benefits and pensions and 401ks and all of these things that are worker essential. And most of that doesn't exist. I mean, I would say most of esports is structured as they're an independent contractor. It's at will. We're going to pay you money to work for us. but everything you do is ours. And it's kind of like this hybrid record label. It's like you could see where the people that kind of started this industry came from, this traditional entertainment world of, we're going to treat you like a musician. We're going to kind of act as like, I always look at this great analogy of, the talent is the talent, whether you're a gamer or a streamer or a rocker or a rapper or an acoustic guitarist. And the team is like the record label. It's like, I want to be on Def Jam or Arista or, down with Rockefeller. It's like, I want to be on FaZe Clan or Team Liquid or Immortals. It's kind of this marketing branding platform, this kind of vehicle that's going to brand you, put you out there, help you grow, get you sponsorship opportunities, and kind of legitimize you. And then they also have like the sports component of their fielding teams and tournaments to win stuff. So you have this competitive aspect too. So you're kind of sitting at the intersection of signing these quote unquote athletes to perform on behalf of you, as well as signing them almost as like talent influencers, celebrities, ambassadors. Like, they're not making music for you, but they're making a Twitch stream for you or a TikTok video or a Facebook clip. It's instead of them singing, they're just playing a game. So it's just kind of the medium of the creativity is different, but it's just a similar deliverable.
It's so interesting. And it's interesting too that, I find it inspiring when people come out with material that's educational, that's like, because one of the biggest challenges is that when people, I studied martial arts, and it's not difficult to defend yourself, but you have to have the information. You have to have the know-how, and you have to know that you can, you know what I mean? That it's possible to defend yourself. And it's interesting, you're putting out, where did you get, what were some of the things that you were seeing that said that you were like, hey man, I need to write this. I need to put this out there.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, kind of touching on what we spoke on before, was just the lack of knowledge, that there's just so much going on here. There's so much more than just playing video games. And I think that somebody needs to really point this out and be able to kind of create something that, was translatable to school. So I've created a bunch of different courses based on the curriculum at some colleges here in the US and abroad. So really wanted to make it teachable. So it wasn't just like, oh, this is the history of esports, FaZe Clan is good, Fortnite's fun, League of Legends happened. Like, I want it to be much more of a useful kind of guide where it's like, okay, if I'm going to start a team, this is some things I should know. These are some things I should look at. If I'm going to be a player, these are some things I should know. If I'm going to run an event, be a tournament organizer, these are just things I should know. And I really wanted to kind of act as this bridge to kind of highlight, wow, like, you need to do this. Like, there's value in trademarking your team name. And look at all these other big teams that are doing it. These are some of the benefits of it. And I really wanted to kind of act as kind of a pamphlet especially for the people that are just really don't have any clue, where it's just like, and I don't know if you're familiar with the book, All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. I'll always give him a shout out because he kind of inspired me for this. His book is one of these things, that was what my music business class was based on. And it was really, this is what you need to know. This is kind of written for a rapper, a manager, an agent, a lawyer, a student, anyone who really wants to learn about it. It's not very legalese. It's not really meant just for lawyers or law students. And that was important to me, is I wanted, a high school kid that wants to become a streamer to be able to pick this up and understand, okay, well, I could write off my streaming lights and my subscriptions and my video editor. And, you could really write off your lawyer fees if you know what you're doing, because this is a business expense. So it's just kind of understanding that these are relevant things that you should know about. And that was kind of what, Donald Passman's book is, and kind of what I tried to model mine after. Is I didn't just want it to be like a history of esports book, because there's lots of those and they're always going to be those. I want it to be something, and some people who have, especially new in the industry, were like, yeah, like I've read it a bunch of times, like I go back to it, and it's like, this is like meant to give you a plan of action and a guide to do things the right way and to explain to you the benefits, and not trying to be super technical with it, because I don't think that's going to help the intended audience. You know, the people that are like me already know this stuff, or pretty much a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know, and really I also made it for like an attorney like me who was starting out. You know, I come from the music world, working with, you know, sports world, fashion, art. So like I knew video games, but I didn't really know what was going on. And what I tried to do in the book was give, you know, a model player contract, a model caster agreement, a coach agreement, sponsorship agreement, and tried to give you some clauses that are really unique to this specific area. Things that you might not necessarily see anywhere else in any other entertainment contracts. And I think that's the biggest nuances and the biggest things I learned from doing everything was that there are specific things that are different, that are just for this world. There's verbiage, there's clauses, there's even these buyout clauses we're mentioning where they have a lot more impact. Yeah, there's buyout clauses in sports and whatnot, but they don't necessarily have as much impact as they do in esports because there's such a rotating carousel where you're on one team for 3 months and then they drop you, you sign to another one, then a month later they drop you, or they pick you up for a tournament for a weekend and they lose and they're out of the tournament. Well, then that's it. You know, they don't need you any longer.
Yeah.
Or they sign to a multi-year deal and they end up benching you halfway through the season because you're not doing good and you're still stuck on that team. And so it's just like there's a lot of things that could happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's as well too. Like one of the things too is that you touched on, and I was thinking about too, is you have this information, and one of the things that you said earlier that was really stuck with me is that you don't have. We start getting information. This happened when I was doing martial arts class. You take a couple classes, you go for a year, and you start to get something, and you're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing now. You forget that there have been people that have been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? You're still swimming with sharks. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's like you might think, hey, I'm starting to get this. I'm pretty good. But you're going up against sharks, which is why you need to have someone who also is knowledgeable, like really on your team. Granted, it's one thing, you need to have basic information so you know who to look for. You know who to kind of reach out to, you know what I mean? Because without any information, you're adrift in the ocean. But once you start being able to identify different things, okay, I remember in that book, they talked about this. I need to get some help there, you know? And so I think people forget that you are swimming with sharks and you got to be prepared. And I mean, and I'm not saying that judgmentally towards anyone. I mean that you're around people who know what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're professionals. Like this is what they do. Like
exactly.
Like you know, there was a point when I was, negotiating these deals with major teams about a deal a week, where it's like doing a FaZe Clan, doing an Immortals, and it's just kind of like the off season gets really intense. So it's just kind of like you're doing these agreements over and over all day. You're negotiating with different teams. You're seeing who does what. And it's like, if you negotiate with a team before, it's like, okay, let me see what they're offering this guy. And, you know what you got previously. Mm-hmm. So if they're not giving you at least better or that, it's like, okay, well, I know that this other guy's getting this. Let's ask for it. And you know what? One thing I've learned, and I tell everyone, is the worst thing that they can say is no. No one is going to be like, how dare you ask for this and rip up the deal, lose my number. And honestly, if that's how it acts, that's kind of a red flag to me. Like, I wouldn't want to be in business with, I mean, I always say there's reasonable and unreasonable. It's like if they offer you 1,000, you ask for 1,000,000, that's probably an unreasonable request. But if they offer you 1,000, you ask for 1,500 or 1,750, like maybe they're not going to give you it, but it's not outlandish or something where they're going to be severely insulted. And you know what? Maybe they'll be okay, well, we can give you 1,300. It's like, okay, well, you just earned an extra $300 just because you asked. Maybe you didn't get the full amount, but I guarantee you they weren't just going to offer you more unless you asked for it. And it's all about the approach. It's all about, and that's kind of always what I say to my clients. It's like, this is not unreasonable. Like, if they want to offer you, like I said, $1,000 and you counter with $150,000, that's probably going to be unreasonable, and they're probably not gonna take it that way, or they're just gonna be like, hey, like we're in totally different worlds, like have a nice day, which is okay because maybe that's what you're worth and maybe that's what you feel. However, most people, again, if they do that, are not gonna rip up the deal and say, how dare you ask for this if you ask for something reasonable. If they say, okay, we want to do a year deal with a 2-year option, okay, well, maybe do a year deal with a 1-year option. Then maybe it ends in a year and a half, where it's just kind of like you're not being unfair. You're not being super aggressive. You're just being, okay, well, this is probably a little bit more what we're comfortable with. And maybe they're like, okay, well, this is the deal that we do for everyone, and this is what it is. And then you have to know that. However, I don't see anyone ripping up the deal and saying, lose my number, like, go to hell kind of thing. So it's just kind of like, people have to understand that. And I think that's maturity, people not understanding their value. I think that's obviously part of it. But then also just people being really scared. Like, oh, well, if I ask for more, they're not going to want me, or they're going to, be like, how dare. It's like, no, like, they're probably not going to do that. Like, it's all about how you do it. And if they say no, that means no. And that's it. Like, no one is going to, like I said, cut your head off for asking. But if you don't ask, you're never going to know. And
Exactly. Exactly, man. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things that we do an injustice to ourselves when we don't try to ask for more. And so, I mean, people are really scared of it, myself included. I remember there were multiple times that I was negotiating for a new job or something, and I asked for too little. And they were like, oh, that's a great deal. And I was like, God damn it, man. They were ready to give me more, It's like, but that's where people are at, And you gotta...
That's where a professional comes in. Someone who's like, okay, well, for this similar deal, people are getting around this. So maybe you're not them, but you could get a little bit more than you think,
Yep, exactly. And I think that's where, again, that's why there are in this industry, my friend is a very successful agent in Europe for actors. Mm-hmm. And her whole thing is asking for more. And like, that's what she does. And my wife is a singer in Vietnam, and she had a manager before that was really great. And he would go, he moved overseas, so we were working with someone else now. But that guy would get the best deals because he asked for more, and he knew, and people knew his reputation. They knew that if he was asking, it was fair. Mm-hmm. And he drives a hard bargain. He's not going to be someone you can negotiate with. And he's going to do a good show, that's also valuable. Like, that you're not going to worry about them being on time, them coming with not saying what they're going to do, showing up 2 hours late, missing sound check. Like, you're professional. Exactly. Yep. That's it. That person's reputation precedes them. And that's why you align with that person. That's why you bring that person in, And again, it means that one of the other challenges, and that this is something that my wife would talk about, was when she won Vietnam Idol in 2007, she suddenly was surrounded by these people who all wanted a piece, and she was like, I didn't know who was a friend and who was not, because everyone acted so friendly. Like, you're my favorite new person. And then a ton of those people disappeared. When any type of trouble hit, or when anything, the storm seas got rocky, those people just pieced out. And you have to know, or have a way to kind of discern who are the people that you can. But again, this comes to like what you were talking about, trust is earned. You gotta start working through. And I love, for things like lawyers, for managers, agents, for me, the best people always have been coming through referrals. Who did you have a great experience
exactly
with? And seeing, like, and that's where, for people who are in those jobs, you just do a great job because your clients are going to come from someone else that you had a great experience, gave a great experience to. So
100%. I mean, that's kind of always the question that I get. It's like, where do you get clients? Where the best clients? Like, usually from referrals of other clients. Like, some of my biggest musician clients referred some of their friends, and because it's like, oh, my guy Justin, he does a great job. He doesn't, charge me an arm and a leg. He always answers my emails and gets back to me. And they're not always attorneys that are doing that, especially for the people that maybe aren't really floating, the bottom line. Let's just say. And I think that to me, that's never the way I approach anything. It's like, if you're doing these mega deals, you're just someone starting out, like, you deserve representation, and, you need someone to help you do it the right way. But there's also different factors. What someone at a bigger level is paying to what you can pay is different. And, I think being cognizant of that is important.
Yep. But I mean, it's also important to just recognize that there are people out there who are there to help. And like you said, I think that people watch too many movies. Like, I have some of my best friends are lawyers, and like, they're so important to like. So here's the thing, right? I remember before I moved to Vietnam, I had a car that I loved, and my friend was a really good mechanic. And he's like, I'm going to teach you how to do some of this stuff so that you can do it yourself. And like, and he taught me to do some things. Like I could change out my starter, you know, of course, obviously change oil and stuff like that. But like, there was a certain point where it's like, I had on this car, a transmission went out, and he's like, all right, if you go to a mechanic, it's going to cost this, but I'm going to take you to the wrecker. We're going to pull it off the wreck, you know, a wreck, get you a new transmission, and then I'll teach you how to put it in. I was like midway through pulling this thing off the wreck. I was like, dude, I'm done. This is not my cup of tea. I'm going to go to a mechanic. You know, we can get this transmission. She's like, where are the transmissions off? Use this one. And it was a good transmission. It was a car that was like low miles. But like, I was like, there's no way I'm putting this thing on. You can get information, but that doesn't make you an expert. You know, you can educate yourself. You can get information, and it empowers you. It does empower you. But you still have to, you know, you got to get help sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm smiling because like I just, you know, maybe a week or two ago was dealing with a client who's like, oh, I did all this research. I spent hours learning about trademark law, and you know, I filed 4 different trademarks and they all got rejected. It's like, well, I mean, I looked at what you did, and it's like I don't even know what you did, and it's just kind of like if you would have just came to someone like me at the beginning, you would have probably known what to do now. And now you have to come to me anyway, and you're paying me, and you just wasted, you know, all that money in filing fees and all that for no reason. And it's like, I don't really know what else to say other than okay, you know, like it's just funny that like you.
And I feel, I feel like for so many people, like you go on the internet, and the internet makes you think that you're like, I have power. But people's careers, especially people in careers like that are coming up in entertainment, and you know, and esports people are definitely entertainers, you know, and there is a myriad of things that you have to navigate, and it is like you are in a labyrinth, and you know, you're walking through this maze, and you know, granted, you don't always know where to turn for help, but like if you can get a guide, these people will walk you through. And it's just like, there's one resource. There's one thing that we can never get back. Time. You know what I mean? And for me, where I've gotten to the point in my career is, and I try to teach this to my daughter, like, we don't waste time. Because that is literally the one thing you can't get back. And, you know, we could be doing something else. And I try to teach it to her, like, I asked you to come over here and brush your teeth, and you didn't. And you like, that's 5 minutes that, you know, that you're not going to be able to play with your cousin.
You could have been playing.
I want to play with him. Yeah, you could have been playing with him. You could have been 5 minutes of playing, but now you don't get those 5 minutes. And so, you know, coming back to esports players and musicians and creatives of all types, if you can get help, then you can be taking that time and spending it doing what you do and making money. Because, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's like that's the reason why agents and managers and attorneys and accountants and business managers and all these wealth managers, is why all these people exist, so that you as a creative can focus on it. You know, you as a basketball player can just shoot the ball. You don't have to worry about paying your taxes, paying your electric bill, who's going to make sure the internet's working, who's going to, you know, pay your jock tax in each state that you're in. You just have people that this is what they do. And, you know, you should be involved in it, and you should be knowledgeable, because there are definitely people that, you know, take advantage. We see that all the time of managers, agents, wealth management people, business advisors doing the wrong thing. But that's because and a lot of it was the talent themselves weren't really paying attention. They were just kind of focused on other stuff. It's like, you need to take interest in this stuff because it's your stuff, but you also need to have people around you that is competent to handle it, because it's just not possible. I think that's like the biggest thing that people that are doing real stuff at this level, just it's not possible for you to do all your billings and your accountings, read through all your contracts, go back and forth, while also touring, going to the studio, practicing for a concert, doing whatever else you need to do to get ready for the performance, whether it's playing baseball or a music performance or a game tournament or just your stream. There's just so much stuff that goes into that to then also worry about all these other things that have huge implications. Like we see all these huge celebrities having issues with the IRS, like all these visa issues, like especially in the esports, you see all the time players not being able to make it to a tournament or to the season starting because they didn't get a visa in time. It's like, this is like, and this is what I do. And it's, it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if we would have started this 2 months ago, we would have got it. And that's always a conversation you have where it's just like, you wait till the last minute. You wait till like, oh, well, we thought we could do this and this. So now we need something in a week. It's like, that's not how most things work, especially when you're dealing with the government and government agencies. Like, most things don't happen in a week.
No way. Right. Well, it's interesting, man. And it's really insightful because I think that this is something I was telling my wife. Like, you don't have to try to do everything yourself. There are people out there that can assist you. And I think that so many people, maybe sometimes they get a bad experience, but like, that doesn't mean that you stop looking for the right people. It means that you keep turning to people to see until you can create, because I'm a big believer in creating a tribe. Like, if you want to be successful as you can, you need to create a tribe of people around you that is going to be part of your empire. You know what I mean? And you keep those people close. And you have to keep an eye on everyone. But just because you want to be knowledgeable and making sure that everything's flowing smoothly and you don't get caught off guard by anything that way.
Yeah, like there's certain talent that's like, no matter what, I want to sign any deal. Like you can go back and forth, you can talk to me, but like before it's done, like I need to see it. And honestly, I like that caveat. I want you to know what you're signing and to be comfortable with it and to know, okay, well, I have to do this, this, and this is what I'm getting. I don't want it to just be something on a statement you get every other month from us. It's like, I want you to know what's going on. I want you to be involved with it because then you feel more confident and it's better for, be more transparent. I think you as the talent feel comfortable and you as, the professional feel comfortable because you have nothing to hide. So you're not hiding anything.
Yeah, exactly, man. I think that's so true. Now, I always ask this question and I'm going to ask you because I shared it before when we were chatting earlier. Now, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, definitely play more video games and really kind of explore that whole world a little bit more to kind of be a little ahead of the curve that like to see this coming. Like I definitely like video games has always been a part of my life, but I didn't necessarily see people making six figures or millions of dollars doing it. I knew in Korea it was huge with StarCraft because I was like StarCraft, but I didn't really know that it would become this huge, robust kind of atmosphere. So I'm definitely would have told myself play more, kind of take this a lot more seriously. But, in real life, I would say that it was just kind of be like, just be aware. And I think that that's the biggest thing is to be aware of everything you do, who you talk to, and how the impression you leave on them. Because the way you treat someone early on, like you never know who they're going to become. Yeah. And like I've seen some people that it's like they're just some random person that reached out to me and like I was just nice to them because like I'm just nice usually. And like now they're whatever. And it's like, oh, hey, like remember when you just like reached out to me to say hi? And like usually I'm sure a lot of people brush you off, but like I'm not going to brush you off if you come correct. It's like, because people don't do that to me, like I definitely get a lot of, just putting yourself out there. I think that's like the biggest advice I guess I would give people, not to myself, but to other people. I would say is like, you have to try and you have to put yourself out there. And, no one, if there's a connection you want to talk to, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or, in a place where you're both, no one's going to spit in your face and say, how dare you talk to me? Or like, why would you message me? Like the worst thing you can do is just be like, hi, like, or just ignore you. So I just think that people have to kind of embrace it and, take your shot, as they say. And, I think that's something I need to tell myself, but I think everyone needs to kind of hear that as well.
Yeah. It's like you don't succeed if you don't try, that was like earlier today. I was talking to my sister-in-law and I said, you know what I'm going to be doing every day when I get back to the US? And she's like, what, doing this, eating this food, doing this. I was like, no, I'm buying a lottery ticket. And she's like, why? And I was like, because I can. You know what I mean? And granted, I'm not buying like $100 every day, but you buy one ticket, because if you don't play, you can't win.
Right? You got to be in it to win it.
And it's like, yep. And to me, it's always symbolic. You know what I mean? Granted, I don't think that I'm going to be the guy who wins. But if I don't play,
remember your friend Justin.
You better believe it. I will be coming right away to set up everything correctly, because I don't want it to come back and bite me in the ass. You know what I mean? Put it away correctly. And put that money to work for you. Yeah. So, exactly, man. And that was like, I was cracking up because, I just was thinking, and they're like, well, don't you have to, why do you play it if you don't, if you're not confident you can win? Because there's always a chance. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you never know what's going to be the thing that takes off. And that's for everyone that I've talked to that's really successful. They're like, I didn't know this was going to be the thing, but it ended up being it,
Right. You don't realize you're on their path until you're like, you look back like, oh, wow, like I'm on this path right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the thing. Like, I would love to be the next Kimmel or something, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. And maybe that doesn't pan out. But like, if I don't try, you don't know. And so each day, one step in front of the other. But you got to put yourself out there.
And you got to do it the right way. That's like, if anyone, to kind of bring it all together for anyone out there, it's like, I think that's kind of the message of you have to do things the right way. And I kind of say, in the off chance that you are successful and you did things the right way, wow. But if you didn't do things the right way, let me tell you the issues you're going to have. And, I'll use this as my last point is, I have this artist that I've kind of taken on my wing for a while. And, I really steered him out of some huge potholes because he just trusted me. Where it's like, hey, man, like, if this manager is going to come to you, like, they need to do this. Oh, well, whatever. It's like, no, this is not who you're going to sign with. There's no value here. You have to continue. And about a month ago, he released an official Universal Music remix. Like, it's like you did the things right, you stayed on the path, you trusted the right people, and now you just got a remix on there's 3 major entertainment things in the world: Universal, Sony, and Warner. You just got one of those, and it's just kind of like this. And he just always thanks me. He's like, oh, thank you so much for, like, making sure that I didn't fall for this and sign with this booking agent and get 10% of everything, but wasn't going to guarantee anything and couldn't bring anything and was just going to make a flyer and hope for the, wish. It's like, there's no value in that. Yeah, right. Like that's not going to do anything for you. You might as well do it on your own at that point and keep your money, or you find someone who's real. And, he trusted, and, obviously, over time, like, I've helped him do agreements and make sure, everything was copyright. His name was trademarked. He has an LLC, all these things. And now he's in an amazing position to really be an artist, to really do this the right way. And if he would have not from day one reached out to someone, knew that, okay, I need someone to help me, he would have signed with a manager that would have done nothing for him, an agent that would have taken everything and done nothing. And he probably wouldn't have existed a couple years later. That would have been it. But he had the right people in his corner. He knew there was a value in, employing and consulting with the right people before you make these decisions. And, I'd say he's done right. He's found a much better situation with a manager where he's not completely tied. This person doesn't own him forever. And, he's bringing him value. And at the end of the day, that's a situation you want to be in. And especially as an artist coming up early, they might know this person that knows this person, that's whoever. And it's like, oh, but that's so far-fetched. And, I always use the example of, even though you're successful with one artist, doesn't mean you're going to be successful with every artist. Like, oh, I broke this guy, da, da, da. Like, that artist is totally different than you. they're like, every person is different. Every situation is different. Unless you're an exact clone twin of that person, what worked for A is not going to work for you. And if they try to do something that worked for them, and it doesn't work for you, it's, so it's just kind of understanding that just because you were successful with A, B, and C doesn't mean they're automatically going to be successful with you, or they're going to be able to get you booked here. Because you don't know what else is going on in those situations. You don't know whose cousin or brother or uncle someone is. You don't know, LMFAO's, uncle is Barry Gordy. You don't know that that's a crazy connection that just opens every door you ever need in the world. And it's just kind of like, there's things that are at play that people don't know, and you need to have people in your corner that kind of understand this stuff and do the right thing by you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, brother, I really appreciate